Welcome to A Salt and Buttery with Intent to Satisfy. Today we are making chocolate chip cookies. Okay, I love chocolate chip cookies. Now, most of the chocolate chip packages have a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. Okay, a perfectly good recipe. I've just spent some time tweaking mine. Okay, now I've already creamed the butter, okay, which is to take the spoon and rub it against the side of the bowl and make sure it's all soft and ready to mix in with everything else, okay? And now I have added the brown sugar and the white sugar, and we're working on creaming that, which is once again taking the back of the spoon and rubbing, okay? We want to try to get this mixed in as well as we can. Now, the darker brown sugar has a richer flavor, okay, because there's more molasses in it. It's got a slightly higher moisture content. There's more molasses in it. If you don't like that, you can get away with using lighter brown sugar. You can use, honestly, whatever brown sugar you happen to have in your pantry, okay? Most people are not going to be able to tell the difference in taste. See, here we go. That is nicely, pretty well mixed together. It doesn't have to be perfect yet because we still have more things to add. Now I'm going to add the eggs. This is part of the recipe that I have modified a bit, because, like I said, I did some tweaking. Now, for cracking an egg, you want to, against a flat surface, because that cuts down on the amount of eggshell that you get into it. Your hands are going to get a little bit messy with this, but this is the best method that I've found so far. Now, gently, but firmly enough to crack the shell, but gently enough so that you're not going smash-o on the countertop. Just go quick crack, and then there we go. Now let me get the rest of the eggs in. Now I am doing a double batch of this because what I like to do is I like to make larger batches of the cookie dough, keep it in the freezer, and then I have it whenever I want it. I also like to cook my cookies from frozen because then they don't spread out as much. Okay. If you like the thinner cookies, then go ahead and do it from warm dough. Okay, that's not a problem. I just happen to like mine to come out a little bit thicker. It takes a little bit more time that way, but like many things, if you're willing to put a little bit more time into it, it makes it come out better. Now, vanilla. I like to use a good quality vanilla for this, okay? I do not particularly care for the artificial vanilla flavor, but if that is what you have, and if that is what you like and what your family likes, then that's what you should use, okay? Once again, like many other things, it's a matter of personal preference. Now that I have all the liquid stuff mixed in with the sugar and the butter, as you can see, it looks kind of gross. It's kind of lumpy and ugh. But you know what? We'll be fine because we're adding more stuff. Okay, now I'm adding the flour. Now, you do not have to use bleached flour for this. I prefer to use unbleached flour. It's just one less step of the processing. Okay. So, and here is the salt and the baking soda. And this goes in with the flour, because we want to make sure that it mixes in well. Mix, 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 mix carefully. Like I said, I'm doing a double batch here. And I will be chilling these before cooking them. But as you can see, it's already starting to look more like cookie dough. Now, one thing you can do at this point is you can also add in a little bit of powdered milk. Some people like it because to them it gives it more of a caramely flavor. I don't particularly care for that, but it is something I have experimented with. Someone mentioned it to me. I tried it out. Like I said, I don't particularly care for it, but for some people, that's going to take the flavor up over the top into excellence. Once again, as I've said before, and I will say again, it is a matter of personal preference as to what you like, what you're serving, okay? If your family happens to like that little bit of caramel flavor in your chocolate chip cookies, go for it. Now, this does make a stiff dough, okay? So, if you happen to have a KitchenAid mixer or a strong mixer that can do this for you, go for it. I'm just doing it this way to show you that it can be done by hand. You don't need extra tools for it. You don't need fancy equipment. As you've seen, the only tools I've needed so far are measuring spoons, measuring cups, a bowl, and a spoon. And as you can see, this is mixing together really nicely, okay? We want to make sure to get down on the bottom because, see, we still have some pockets of flour there. And we don't want to lose any of that. We want to try to get it all mixed in really well. You can use the front of the spoon. You can use the back of the spoon, okay? Oh, yeah, my arm's getting tired. How's yours doing? But, like I said, this can be done with no extra tools. Can be done by hand. Yay! Don't need extra fancy gadgets in the kitchen for this, okay? Just need a bowl, a spoon, some ingredients, and something to measure with. Okay. Now, I'm going to add the chocolate chips. Now, it seems like this is something that the more chocolate chips, the better. Yes and no. Ta-da! It's a matter of proportions. Now, what some people will do is they will do like half chocolate chips and half peanuts. Okay. Or you can do chocolate chips and peanut butter chips, or almost anything. Or if you like the basic cookie dough, instead of using chocolate chips, you can use nuts. Kind of funny story about the origin of the chocolate chip cookie is the original recipe was being mixed up in a kitchen, and the lady who was making the cookies realized she didn't have any nuts for her cookies. So she substituted some chocolate that she chopped up. And that gave us chocolate chip cookies. And originally, they were butternut cookies. Because of the amount of butter and the richness of the sugar and everything. So if you want to do nuts in this instead, take it back historically to the butternut cookie. That's possible. Go ahead and do it. Now, here we have chocolate chip cookie dough. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cover this with plastic and stick it in the refrigerator for an hour before I cook the first batch. This will not take it as far as cold as sticking them in the freezer, okay? But it gives you an idea. And it helps keep it from spreading out as much. Like I said, I like my cookies a little bit thicker, okay? So, Once again, putting this in the refrigerator for an hour, and we'll take a look at it. How's that? And we'll be back. Thank you. Okay, now we have had the cookie dough in the refrigerator for at least an hour. Okay, now one trick that I do later is I lay out a piece of baking parchment. Okay, this is unbleached baking parchment. You can use the bleached baking parchment. Okay, either way, either one works. I lay out a piece of baking parchment, and the reason I do the baking parchment is it helps keep the cookie dough from sticking to everything that I don't want it to stick to. So then I put the cookie dough on in basically a line on the baking parchment. Then I roll it so that I have kind of a circle. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. It's okay. And then I put it into a Ziploc bag and I freeze it, and then I just cut off sections that I want. Kind of like when you get the rolls of cookie dough from the store. Okay, except I like this better because it's my cookie dough. Yes, and I like it better. It tastes better to me. Anyway, so now we have the oven preheated to 325 degrees here. Now we're going to take small spoon, okay, not a large spoon. Well, you can use a large spoon if you want to, but then it takes a little longer to cook. But just take and put spoonfuls onto the sheet, onto the cookie sheet. Now, I use some baking parchment on top of a baking stone. The baking parchment helps keep it from sticking really bad because baking stones tend to be a little bit porous, and the dough gets into the porousness of the stones, and then it's really, really difficult to get it all clean. So take some dough, put it on. It's still going to spread because this is a butter-based, okay? It's not that stiff, really. I mean, it might feel like it, but it's not. It's going to spread, but that's okay. That's part of the yumminess of cookies, because you get that nice crispiness at the edges, and well, hey, cookies are good. Everyone likes cookies, right? But also the baking parchment makes the cleanup easier. And the reason I use a baking stone, it's one of the few specialty items that I would kind of recommend, is it cuts down on the burning of the cookies or whatever else you're cooking on top of it. And it actually browns. I found that it browns better without burning. So I fought for so long with the regular style cooking sheet, the metal ones, always burning. So frustrating. Okay, so I ended up getting one of these. Actually, it's a pizza stone. Okay, but I use it for almost everything that I possibly can. Helps keep me from over browning. He helps keep me from burning, and I love the things. Okay, like I said though, only difficulty is slightly porous. So I took care of that by using some baking parchment on top of it, and recommend hand washing. My dishwasher will not fit my baking stones, sadly. So now, if anyone happens to know of a rectangular baking stone, let me know, because I would really love one. Anyway, so like I said, this is a pizza stone, multi-purpose. Don't have to use it just for pizza, and life's good. Anyway, so I'm going to put these in the oven for about 15 minutes. We're going to check on them in about 12 minutes just to make sure things are going properly, and I'll show you when they're done. Thanks. Okay, now the rest of the cookie dough that I'm not using for at this point, I'm going to put onto the baking parchment here, roll it up so that I can freeze it. Now, if I wasn't going to do that, the rest of this would go into the refrigerator to keep cool while I'm baking the batches of cookies. Okay. You don't have to make this a perfect tube. It's okay. But the goal is just to get it into the freezer so that it's ready whenever you want it. Like I said, this is a double batch of cookie dough, and it's a recipe that I've worked on a bit so that it's closer to what I want. I will have all the instructions for a single batch and also a couple of alternatives that I've mentioned, including the powdered milk, so that you can do that for yourself and experiment with this. Try it out, okay? Important note about the salt in the recipe, though, is that I prefer to use a non-iodized salt, basically like a sea salt. Then you don't end up with the off flavor that you can get from the salt with the iodine in it. Okay. There we go. See? One basically oversized loaf of cookie dough. Then into a double zipper freezer bag. I don't like to use the zipper bags with the little zipper tab on them because I found that those don't seal as well. So I just don't use those. And also I tend to have a problem with when I try to use those of them going off the end occasionally. So then I'm trying to get back on to get it unzipped and so anyway, and as you saw, I squeezed out most of the excess air. Okay, if you happen to have a vacuum sealer, go ahead and use that. Now, I will use marker. Mark on this exactly what it is, what temperature I cook it at, and matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is chocolate chip cookies. Chocolate chip. Bake. 325 degrees for 15 minutes. Approximately. Okay? So, this way I don't forget when I'm doing large batches. When I'm doing large batches of cookies or when it's been a little while, I can pull this out. It's got the information, it's got the type of cookie it is, what it bakes at, about how long it bakes, and life's good. And those cookies are almost done. Yes! Okay, here we have some nicely browned chocolate chip cookies, fresh out of the oven. Okay, now one thing with a baking stone is you have got to use a metal spatula. If you use a Teflon one, because of the heat in the stone, it will melt it. Let's see if I can get one of these off to show you how nice this is on the bottom. Okay, perfect. See, this is what I'm looking for on the bottom of my cookies when they're done. Okay, perfect. Lightly browned, evenly browned, not burned. This is why I like my baking stones. So now, if I was doing large batches, if I was doing multiple batches, what I would do is I would actually just slide the baking parchment off, let them cool on the counter. That's one of the nice things about baking parchment is you can do that. And then I can just put another piece of baking parchment on the stone and bake the next batch. And this way I can also bake multiple types of cookies. I'm not limited to only one type of cookie or anything like that. And that's also one of the advantages of having several different types of cookie dough in the freezer. So this is chocolate chip cookies, okay? My slightly tweaked version of them that I really like, and I hope you will too. So let me know what you think, and go ahead and try out some of the alternatives or something else that you can think of, okay? Have a great day, enjoy this, and make it to your taste. This was A Salt and Buttery with intent to satisfy, and I hope you're satisfied. Thank you.